You know what? You know what? A win is a win is a win is a win, right? Like, I get it. It ain't pretty, but it's us. That's been the Ravens slogan for how long, right? Wait a minute. Does it have to be us? Like, is it necessary that not pretty equals the Ravens? There's there's potential, I think, with this offense after a rough game against the Panthers. But how in the world will they find that potential? What is going on, good people? DJ back again with Flock Nation Speaks. First things first, happy Thanksgiving to y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed a little bit of family time. Hope y'all ain't too full. Hope y'all can still come to the show and not feel just completely overwhelmed and completely just stuffed and not be able to take in what I'm about to tell y'all here in a little bit. But for real though, happy Thanksgiving to y'all. Hope y'all really had a good holiday, good time with family, good time with friends, whoever you spent it with. If you spent it alone, hope you had a good time regardless. But this offense, the offense for the Ravens, I just want to talk a little bit about it, man, because it's crazy to see the kind of ebbs and flows of the season, right? There has been ebbs and there's been flows when it comes to this Ravens offense this season. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, you look at sometimes you look at the stats and you're like, man, that was terrible. Sometimes you watch the game, like for example, the 13-3 win against Carolina, and you're like, man, that was boring, terrible, not fun. I mean, it was passive looking, like it didn't really feel like there was adjustments being made. There was a lack of execution. The coaching was terrible, right? There was drops in the game. It was awful. How do you fix these things, right? Because let's be honest, right? Looking at a 13-3 win against a team that looks like they're glorifiedly rebuilding, right? A team that is just, they don't know what direction they're going in, versus a team that a lot of people say is a Super Bowl contender, and a team that hopes to be, playing in February. It's tough, man. It's tough to watch sometimes, right? The Ravens are one of the weirdest teams in the league, and I think they've been like this for 25 years. That they are one of the weirdest teams in the league, right? I think I've heard Miss Gina in some of the spaces talk about their zegging, right? And not zigging, they're not zagging, they're zegging. They're making a combination of the two. They're always cut from a different cloth. They're always doing things in a different way. And I've heard both sides of the argument, right? I've heard both sides of the argument. I've heard this is a good thing, right? There's legs to this. I've heard this is a bad thing, right? Because on one hand, if you're doing things entirely different than other teams are doing it, you become the 2016 Golden State Warriors, where you are just completely dominant across the league. And there's championships and there's dynasty written all over you and there's potential there. But then sometimes you being different also becomes easy to stop. If it becomes predictable, if it's, hey, we're set up to stop the pass, all we got to do is stop this semi-dominant run game that you have. Let's see, I think we can do so. And it's weird, right? Because I think the offensive struggles, the offensive issues, it leans into the playoffs more than anything. I heard a lot of people talk about the playoffs. I heard a lot of people say, for example, I saw somebody say the Ravens are the 27th ranked passing offense. How in the world are they going to make it to the Super Bowl with the 27th ranked passing offense? Now, albeit, and I know they didn't make it to the Super Bowl this season, but in 2019, they were the 22nd ranked passing offense. And I think right now, given the injury situation, given the depth chart, given the guys that we have at running back right now, given some of the injuries that at least the big injury to Rashad Bateman at wide receiver, I think we have to tamper our expectations a little bit. First things first, I think in terms of being the 27th versus the 22nd ranked passing offense, right? That offense was explosive. I think that sometimes is forgotten about, right? The 2019 offense was explosive. And I know a lot of people, you go back and forth. You don't know if you want the 2019 offense or you want like an evolved, almost like 2019 style offense, because it's kind of like that's the direction they went to. They kept all these tight ends. They didn't go after big time wide receiver talent. And now they're left to figure it out, and go in the direction that Greg Roman wants to go. Now, ever since Bateman went down, that's been an issue because Greg Roman has had a problem getting guys like Devin Duvernay involved, right? Getting guys like Demarcus Robinson consistently involved, getting guys like Likely consistently involved, right? When Mark Andrews is out there. So what's the problem, right? That's probably what everybody's like asking. What's the problem and how is it fixed? My thing is this. I think you have to tamper your expectations. Is it tamper or temper? I think it's temper. Regardless, you have to be realistic in your expectations of this offense. You have, let's be respectful and say a bottom 10. I think the majority of Ravens flock feel like probably a bottom 5 wide receiving core in the league comparatively to what everybody else has. Also, when it comes down to that, you've lost your top wide receiver. You are on your third string running back from injuries that occurred last season and kind of have lingered over into this season. So the running game's not going to be as good, right? Kenyon Drake is not going to run the ball as effectively as a guy like Gus or JK will, right? Justice Hill can't even see the field when JK and I mean, he couldn't see the field for the many seasons he's been a Raven. So we have to kind of relax our expectations a little bit when it comes to this offense for now. This is a run-first offense in a run-first organization with a lack of passing weapons to begin with. So the biggest thing that the Ravens want to do, run the ball dominantly, not even consistently, dominantly. And then they want to pass the ball efficiently, right? Going back to it, 2019 was probably the best offensive year for the Ravens under Lamar Jackson, right? Under Greg Roman. Why was that? Because in 2019, it was run the ball dominantly, control the clock, play good defense, and pass the ball efficiently. The yards don't matter because Lamar's going to run for 1,000 yards anyway, so you have to factor that in, right? He's running for so many yards. You have to factor that in. He's such a big part of the rushing offense. You have to factor that in. And you don't have the wide receiver talent to consistently get open and make these big plays, get these yards after the catch. You rarely ever run a darn screen. So I think we have to like kind of temper our expectations a little bit when it comes to this Ravens offense, because the Ravens offense is run heavy, run the ball dominantly, and efficiently throw the ball. Lamar Jackson led the league in passing touchdowns, not passing yards. Now, touchdowns matter a little more than yards do, but because regardless of how you do it, as long as you outscore the other team, you outscored the other team. Now, the thought process is this too predictable, right? Is the Ravens' dominant rush offense with an efficient passing game, right? Is this sustainable when it comes to the playoffs? It's tough because I my personal opinion, I think it is. I think it is. I think the Ravens' offense will be fine as soon as JK and Gus gets back. I think you'll see a difference. We've seen it this season when the Ravens had either a good wide receiver when it comes to Rashad Bateman to take away a top corner, or they had JK or Gus on the field. The Ravens offense was clicking. When they had to kind of step away from their traditional what they want to do offense given the personnel, because there is no so now you don't have Rashad Bateman as your number one receiver. You have Justice Hill and Kenyon Drake starting over J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards because of injury. That makes a big difference in how well you can run the football. And they still been able to effectively run the football, but you don't see kind of those big chunk pop plays that you're used to seeing from this rushing offense. So when it comes to the playoffs, and I think that's what a lot of people are thinking, like even if Gus comes back, even when JK, even when Gus comes back, is it going to be enough to stop these offenses that, for example, we saw in the game today? The Bills, let a game-winning drive in 23 seconds. Can the Ravens score in that amount of time with the weapons that they have? Going with the run game. I think there's possibilities there, right? Right, because JK can break one, Gus can break one. We saw it, but they have to be on the field. Now, once again, the biggest question when it comes to the Ravens is not even the players; it's the coaching, right? It's the coaching. Can you make the adjustments when it's time? Can you run your game? Can you actually not get nervous and actually run the game that you've been trying to run the whole season? Can you run that game when it comes to the playoffs, right? Can you be efficient passing the ball? Can you be dominant running the ball when it comes to the playoffs? Not shy away from that because everybody else is doing what everybody else does. And that's going to be the key. The key, number one, is let's see. I'm excited to see what the Ravens look like when they get their personnel back, right? When JK, Bateman's done for the year, can't do nothing about it. I'm not even gonna get on the OBJ train because there's no need, right? There's no need. They're not signing OBJ. Let's just be honest, right? Let's just be honest. We know the Ravens organization. They're not signing OBJ. They're just not. So, with that being said, in order to run the offense that Greg Roman wants to run with the personnel that he's been given the injuries as well, we're gonna have to wait until JK and Gus get back for this offense to be dominant again. And I kind of want to be on a like watch and see basis when Gus and JK come back, because when they come back and hopefully by then they're healthy and 100%. When they come back, it changes the game. When Gus was in the game, the Ravens looked like that dominant offense again. Because once again, like I said before, I'm not worried about the receivers. I'm worried about number 8. At least when you have a solid running back in Gus and a solid running back in JK, I got to worry about them too, right? Which then opens up a guy like Demarcus Robinson, who's been playing well, to find his way open. So I think we have to, as Ravens fans, we're going to have to be okay with this kind of offense for now. Let JK and Gus get back and watch what happens. Because I promise you, when JK, we're talking about given the circumstances that we're in right at this moment, right? Given the guy we have calling plays, right? Given this coaching staff, we know the defense is going to be good. Let's just be honest. I mean, there's talent all over the field on defense, and as of right now, with that talent, they looked well coached. They looked kind of rough early on in the season, but now that they've kind of found their way and they found their spots, they found their roles, they look far better than they did earlier in this season. But it's the offense that seems to be the question mark, which I never thought I would have a question mark about the offense. But let's be honest, the offense is a question mark because the personnel is not indicative of the scheme you want to run. You want to run a power heavy run scheme with Kenyon Drake and Justice Hill. It's not going to work, right? We've seen it. This as much as this offense is a plug and play, you can pick up guys off the street and be successful offense. It's not a dominant offense with guys off the street. It's a dominant offense with the true talent of J.K. Dobbins, the true talent of Gus Edwards, of course, the true talent of Lamar Jackson, and then adding in that efficient passing game. Once J.K. and Gus gets back, honestly, watch what happens to this offense. I guarantee you they get back to that 20 to 30 points a game scoring team that they were. Because likely has shown promise. And yes, he's got the drop issues too. We know who Mark Andrews is. Demarcus Robinson has shown promise, right? But because of the threat of what Lamar Jackson is and what Lamar Jackson creates, plus this defense playing better, this defense turning people over now, right? This defense actually, on the verge of scoring points now. That's another factor that keys in that I think we can be optimistic about when it comes to the playoffs, because right now the NFL more than any other season, right? So the NFL more than any other season right at this moment is Anybody can beat anybody. We've seen it time and time again. Nobody is dominant in this league. The Eagles look like a shell of the team they looked like 2 weeks ago, right? They look like a shell of the team they looked like 2 weeks ago. The Bills look kind of right? Whatever dominant team you want to put out there, we've seen the weaknesses in the Chiefs. It just depends on if you can exploit them, right? There's nobody running this league right now. And in terms of the AFC, there's nobody running the AFC either, right? The Dolphins have no defense. They have a freaking ridiculous offense with ridiculous speed, but they have no defense. So I think as Ravens fans, we have to, first things first, take a breath, right? Let's take a breath. Let's relax a little bit, right? And let's remember that the two top running backs for this team are still hurt, right? Let's remember that our top wide receiver is still hurt. Let's remember this is a run first offense. It's hard to lead the league in passing and lead the league in rushing. So once your guys get back, I feel like we will start to see this kind of efficient, quick strike kind of passing game, right? Once you can kind of work a Deshaun Jackson in, once you can kind of work, some of these other guys in, Duvernay, get Duvernay involved, how, by hook or by crook, however you got to do it. I think there's potential to this offense. I think there's legs to this offense, and I think they will be better. But I'll be back with a preview of the Ravens game against the Jaguars coming up this Sunday. I'll be back with a preview in the next couple of days. As always, you can always watch Flock Nation Speaks on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think that's all of them for now. But also, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're already on YouTube. Be sure to give a like if you're on Facebook, whatever you're doing. Right? Share the video if you haven't already. Share the podcast if you haven't already. And I'll be back very, very, very much so next time to talk more Ravens football as we get ready for this Ravens Jaguars game. It's one of those things where nothing's a sure thing right now, and you just got to go with it until this offense gets going in a dominant fashion and not looking as sluggish. Being comfortable watching these games is going to be tough. But as always, see you guys on the next one. Until next time.